Hey everybody, this is Dave Cooper, and we're in the UK in central London at Bryden Wood, and I am hanging out with Jaimie Johnston, Head of Global Systems. Jaimie, thanks for joining us.
Hi there, good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you again as well. Just met in the US a few months ago, which was great. Jaimie, let's recap. Tell us a little bit about what your role is here at Bryden Wood.
So I tend to work with our major clients, both public and private sector. So I tend to sort of get introduced to the clients, work out strategically what we can do to help them kind of shape the offer around, whatever their sort of business needs or business drivers are, and then set up the kind of the projects and get the team up and running. So I do that on either big clients like some of our data center clients, for instance, or some of the public sector stuff we're doing. I've spent a lot of my time over the last 10 years working with the UK government, particularly helping them kind of shape policy and strategy around transforming construction as well, which takes up quite a bit of my time at the moment.
Technology is literally built into the culture here at Bryden Wood. Talk us through how that came to be.
So when we first started, we were always interested in manufacturing type benefits and how we could bring that into construction. So the thing we were kind of best known for early on was design for manufacture and assembly or industrialized construction, prefabrication. We found very quickly that to make that work, we had to be very, very integrated. And that started just using a lot of kind of software, so some of the manufacturing type software. So we were very early adopters of digital, and actually we found that those two things are completely linked.
Right.
So every time we sort of develop a new way of building, typically it's driven by new digital tools. So you've spoken to Phil and seen some of those configurators and things, and those two strands of work are completely linked as far as we're concerned. I think the industry thinks there's a sort of digital thing happening and there's a industrialized construction thing. In our minds, it's the same. The two strands of the same initiative. They
go hand in hand, literally. And with that, I mean, we saw a couple of things with Phil, but my guess is you guys are constantly looking to the horizon for how this technology can be applied or new technology added to it.
Yeah, we think it's interesting. I think a lot of people are taking a normal design, procure, build process and adding technology onto it. We've sort of said, if you had this technology, what would you do with it? Because you wouldn't reinvent the kind of normal way of designing and building things. So we've constantly been trying to say, if you had access to this technology, what would be the way you'd change your whole design process, delivery process? Which means we're constantly finding out new things. We're constantly learning things. Obviously, the technology is getting better and quicker.
Right.
And so every year we're sort of trying to work out what's the next piece of capability that we need to get. So it's sort of grown in all sorts of different directions, from being initially just designers. We now have data analysts, we've got coders, we've got robotics people, we've got VR, AR experts, we do discrete event simulation. It's sort of grown in all these different sort of capabilities, but it's always in service of trying to find a better value offer for clients.
Sure. Well, I mean, data is used in pretty much every other industry. It only makes sense that we're using it in the construction space now.
Yeah, and we're seeing, lots of clients have tons of data, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it. So part of our job is always sort of taking data that clients have got, working out how to, generate information, insight, and something off the back of it. So, clients are waking up to the fact now they have this sort of massive pool of data. They can't necessarily get their hands on it or do something useful with it. So a lot of the stuff that Phil's been doing on highways, for instance, is bringing together all these different data sets and making them work to become sort of greater than the sum of the parts.
So all these folks that are out there that have all this data, Bryden Wood knows what to do with it, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. So you're an international company.
Yep.
You're growing. You're expanding into the United States, the Boston area.
Yep.
So opening an office is one thing. What about partners and the collaboration that you have?
Yes, the reason we're opening the office is because more and more of our work is coming from the US now. So lots of the big data center clients are interested in the stuff we're doing. We're working with a company called Bolt on some process facilities. We're working with Chandos, who are a big Canadian contractor. So we're seeing more and more interest coming from the US in the stuff we're doing. And it feels like that's a market that is going to move very quickly. There seems to be, we've spoken about it before, the attitude to drawing on this innovation to transform construction seems to be happening very quickly in the US. So it feels like it's a rich hunting ground for us to be in.
It is a rich hunting ground, and it is growing quickly. And I think as the industry, the stakeholders in the industry that are looking to build products start understanding the value of the data that they have or the data that they could get to speed up their projects, to speed up, time to market, right? Cost and predictability. I mean, these are all major factors we have a labor shortage, right? Costs are uncertain and all this. So this all really plays right into what you work on.
And I think that's definitely what was. I mean, those problem statements the same all over the world: the productivity, the carbon, sustainability, labour shortage, and things. What we think is quite interesting is in the UK, government is backing this very strongly. So government's put a lot of effort into the policy and strategy around transforming construction. What we've seen in the US is there's not the same federal drive, but there's these massive serial clients and these big manufacturers.
Yeah.
And so the clients are sort of pushing it from the top. The manufacturers are coming up the value chain. So we're starting to see these things link up, and that's going to be, that's the thing that's going to transform it. So it's coming much more from the supply side in the States, whereas it's much more driven by the government over here.
Currently, sure. So we're in town for Steel Horizons with Howick. Let's talk a little bit, how is steel transforming the industry? What do you see the future?
So all of the big steel manufacturers are trying to work out how to make steel with less carbon now. Mm-hmm. So I think in the future, whether this is sort of 5-10 years, I don't know, I think we'll see all the electric arc furnaces will be powered by hydrogen fuel cells or some form of renewable. So I think we're about to see the carbon content collapse, because it's one of the things that obviously is certainly it's a key focus of the industry here, is this sustainability thing. So I think that's going to transform the way steel gets produced, and that'll open it up to a lot of these sort of new ways of working. So there seems to be a sort of race between steel and carbon to get or steel and concrete to get the carbon content down. So it's happening very quickly in concrete. I think we're about to see it kicking off in steel as well.
Steel as well. Well, we're going to go check out some of your projects. One, Tottenham Court. We're going to walk over there shortly and take a look at that.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that project before we get there?
Yes, this is the tunnel lining, the architectural tunnel lining for the Elizabeth Line Crossrail. Yeah. It's the most digital to physical thing I think we've done in the office. So we were using SolidWorks, which is a piece of software that's more often used in manufacturing. But once we had the kind of SolidWorks model, everything was then driven from that model. So all of the coding of the components, some of the molds were 3D printed directly off the model. Some of the bigger components were CNC cut, again, straight off the model. So you'll see when we get down there, the geometry is incredibly complex.
Right.
I'm not sure how you couldn't probably have built it without having some of these digital tools. But the fact that the model was then linked straight into the manufacturing process, and every component was kind of pre-kitted, pre-checked in the model, so we knew it would all fit.
With accuracy.
It's incredibly, it's probably the most advanced digital workflow that we've used at that sort of scale.
I love it. The Forge. We're also going to check out the Forge while we're here. What can we expect?
So that's the first commercial office that's using this platform kit of parts. So we developed a cross-sector kit of parts. So most of the Forge superstructure is actually based on something we did for the military. So I think there's a really interesting story about. We developed it in the public sector, private sector developer then picked it up and said, actually, I can use the same components, the same processes. So you'll see just how closely integrated the superstructure, the MEP, for instance, are all sort of very, very closely coordinated. We got incredible bursts of productivity because of the pre-kitting of everything and the accuracy of the components. Once the superstructure was up, then the facade came as a kit of parts. They were able to install facade panels in 7.5 minutes, which is lightning fast.
7.5 minutes.
And the MEP was all pre-kitted and sort of delivered and offered up to the slab. Right. So the productivity in those two packages was incredibly good. So theoretically, you could have built that building in half the time, but logistics is the next big thing we need to get into now.
Well, and we're going to bring that to everybody out there that's watching this as well. Jaimie, thank you so much.
Thanks
Appreciate you taking some time out of your day. We're going to head down to Tottenham Court so we can show you that as well. I'm Dave Cooper. We are in central London at Bryden Wood's Digital to Physical. This is where you want to come. Bye now.